It has been such a long road getting from 755 to here. But the top 100 is finally upon us, more than 2 years after starting the release of these videos, and more than 3 years since I started this project. As we get into the double digits, I would define many of these episodes today as thrillers, amongst others. Thanks for tuning in to Best of Trek, Worst of Trek. I'm your host, Dustin Wing. Getting rickrolled at number 99. Never Gonna Give You Up. Or Blaze of Glory. After intercepting a communique from the remnants of the former Maquis, Sisko teams up with his personal white whale, Michael Eddington, to stop non-existent missiles probably similar to Dreadnought seen in Voyager, that may have cloaking devices. Ben and Mike try to out-machismo each other for the rest of the episode, and that's really what makes it great. The reality is, this was a rescue mission all along, to extract Eddington's wife and Maquis friends, and the Sisko got rickrolled. Eddington got to be the martyr he clearly wanted. Michael really comes off as a likable good guy in this one, lending more clout to the fan theory that the Sisko is actually the antagonist in DS9. Though in the end, Sisko seems to understand Eddington better in death than he did in life. Going on the offensive at 97 and 98, Preemptive Strike, or Improbable Cause, and the die is cast. Our plain, simple tailor, Garak, begins the episode having lunch with his totally platonic friend Bashir, when shortly after, Garak is almost killed by a bombing of his shop. Really, it's just our not-so-simple tailor up to his old tricks to bring Odo into an investigation, which gives Rene Aubergenois a chance to do one of his best scenes in DS9, where he hassles a Phylaxian assassin, and he goes from perfume customer to his casual Sherlock Holmes security chief brilliantly. We get our only look at the shadowy Gul Rousseau, before Garak and Odo have their runabout apprehended by the Obsidian Order Tal Shiar rogue fleet, heading for the wormhole to destroy the Founders before they can cause problems. Leland Orser makes a really low-key appearance as the Changeling playing Colonel Lobach. It's weird to try to justify this genocide, but remember, the Dominion is pushing this alliance of Alpha Quadrant powers to attack them, so any action they now take on the Alpha Quadrant will be justified, even though they started it in the first place. You know, basically one Great Link Palpatine. Before he ended up in the entry before this one, Eddington shows us his loyalty to Starfleet when ordered to sabotage the Defiant to keep Sisko on book with his orders to sit tight on the station and pray the Dominion don't come looking for revenge. This gives Miles O'Brien another chance to again show why he's Starfleet's greatest asset. Ben and crew fix it and make it there in just enough time to rescue Garak and Odo halfway across the Gamma Quadrant. One of the unhinged but brilliant scenes that gets this into the top 100 is Elam interrogating Odo for information he doesn't have. Both actors hit in this scene masterfully. This one is a preview of the Dominion War to come, receiving ancient knowledge at number 96, Tower of Babel, or an O-Ball for Charon. For all you disco haters out there, yes, despite not seeing it on this list for nearly the last 100 ranked episodes, it does have a few in the double digits. This particular episode hits so many Star Trek notes, there's absolutely nothing to not like. We start with Pike and Una, which was a big deal before Strange New Worlds premiered, just having lunch together and catching up on the Red Angel situation, and her overseeing Enterprise's refit after their first 5-year mission. Later, an alien probe immobilizes the ship. Where have I heard this one before? Usually a recipe for a mediocre Trek snooze fest, but not today. Having it knock out the Universal Translator, which is pretty much vital to tying a crew of people from across species and dialects, is a brilliantly done bit of sci-fi. Stamets and Reno get to show their witty banter off for the first time, as they try to rid Tilly of her fungal friend May, which gets weird with drilling a hole in her skull and having the rare Trek moment of licensing a popular song. Saru thinks he's dealing with the end of his life through the run of the episode, only to find out what he'd been taught his whole life about Vahari was a lie, perpetuated to keep his people in slavery. After all the craziness, this probe just wanted to transfer its wealth of hundreds of thousands of years of knowledge to Discovery, which becomes a problem later in the season. This was the episode where Pike and crew showed what they were made of, and probably the start of talks about a strange new spin-off, which is now going strong. This episode rounds out something about nearly every recurring character in the show, and finally gives the Trek trope of an alien probe archive a decent script to go along with the premise. Don't walk, run to 95, going viral, or the quickening. For such a serious episode about the nature of disease, it starts on one of DS9's funniest gags, as Quark's in hot water for programming ads to play on the station's terminals, all the way to the Defiant's replicated beverages materializing in his gimmicky cups. Aside from that, the episode is grim as can be, as Dax and Julian get caught up in a planet the Dominion made examples of by introducing a virus that randomly terminates their life, and the closest thing they have to doctors are Kevorkians. While all this is going on, Kira's just chilling in a runabout for a week, while the blue shirts make the problem worse, as they find out, only too late, that anything electromagnetic like their equipment quickens the quickening. Even after Kira and Dax go back to the station, Bashir doesn't give up, and even delivers a baby free of the quickening. It's not a cure, but it will allow the next generation to move forward. I kinda love the approach this episode takes, going all Kate Pulaski and dropping the technology in favor of old-school basic medicine. Searching for the truth at number 94, Test of Loyalty, or Inquisition, the episode that spawned the Federation's shadow agency. Section 31 runs a deception that has both Bashir and the viewer in suspense the whole way through. Sloan tests Bashir's loyalty to the Federation through a sleep-deprived witch hunt, accusing him of being a Dominion spy and not even realizing it. It's only when Cisco shows up without any regard for the situation, and the fact Cheap O'Brien's umpteenth kayaking injury doesn't respond in his hollow facade, that Mr. Genetically Modified puts together that nothing he's experienced here has been real, which gives way to Voyager's holodeck set and the reveal of the man behind the curtain. There's no way in a galaxy full of Obsidian orders that the Federation doesn't have their own secret police. The birth of Section 31 easily earns this one a top spot. Fighting back at 93, Mirror's Edge, or Into the Forest I Go. Another disco episode that I just don't have any complaints about, and it comes at the apex of their first season, where everything seems to be moving forward and that pesky Klingon war Burnham gets unjustly blamed for is about to turn for the Federation, only to be sidelined for 9 months because of Mira Lorca that's been with us from the beginning. This one is extremely action-packed and one of Trek's best all-around thrillers. Burnham nearly ends the leader of the Klingon War, and Stamets proves why the Spore Drive-equipped Crossfield class made my top 5 ship designs video too much chagrin, as he makes over 100 micro-jumps to break the Klingon cloaking device, and shows us how powerful that can also make the ship as a weapons platform. But after his sacrifice and original willingness to lay down the Spore Drive operator position, Lorca feeds him coordinates that lead the ship into the Mirror U at the end. To top all that off, we get a Klingon with her top off. And that marks Trek's first nude scene. Unless you count this, or this. But hey, Klingon boobs. Doing recon at 92. Pushed to the brink. Or Azadi Prime. Much like the previous entry, this episode is the crux of a season arc where the season tension comes to a head, and leaves you on a cliffhanger that leaves you wondering if the hero ship is even going to make it. Enterprise will bear the scars from this battle for the rest of the season, and is probably the most beat up but still flying Starfleet ship we've seen since the Year of Hell. Daniels makes another appearance aboard the Enterprise J to give Johnny one of his famous pep talks. Even after that, he still does a suicide mission to try and destroy the season big bad Xindi weapon all by himself, but ends up captured and being a Kirk-style smartass, even while chained and beaten, and that smugness turns into one of Trek's most brilliant moments, as he has a talk about Degra's feelings on genocide. T'Pol finally shows for the first time that her Trillium-D problem has affected her when she has an extreme outburst. This one's another great thriller that brings the season's underlying tension to the surface in some intense ways. Running Silent at 91, Hit and Run, or Defiant. The first few seasons actually might have you believe Gul Dukat is the protagonist, and on multiple occasions goes out of his way to help the Cisco clean up a Federation mess. What? No statue of him on Bajor? The episode starts pretty nonchalantly like any middle-of-the-road episode of DS9, with an overworked Kira ordered by her doctor to enjoy life a little. And who better to enjoy life with than the Enterprise's biggest man whore, Will Riker? Only it's not that Riker, but Maquis transporter clone with the fake beard, Tom. He steals the recently introduced Defiant for its cloaking device, which forces Ben to have to call his old friend Dukat for help getting his ship back. This episode just works on a lot of levels. It's a crossover, it furthers the Cisco and Dukat arc well as they work together at Cardassian Command, it moves the Maquis story forward, and it hints at the upcoming secret fleet we talked about earlier in this block being built. It's one of those submarine chase thrillers, similar to Balance of Terror, but leans into so many ongoing Trek plot points. The ending begs the question, what happened to Thomas Riker? Sacrificing itself unnecessarily at number 90, the Planet Killer, or the Doomsday Machine. Even though some may think I've been harsh on some classic episodes, here's one that well and truly passes the test. The Enterprise finds the USS Constellation wrecked in a destroyed solar system. What they find is a Commodore named Decker, who's the sole survivor after making a tactical error and beaming his crew down to a planet in order to save them, only to have the entire planet eaten by a gigantic space weapon. Kirk, Scotty, and other away party members get stranded on the Constellation, and Decker takes command of the Enterprise to get his retribution for his eaten crew. In the end, sacrificing himself, I guess for no other reason than joining those that he lost. But that gives Kirk an idea. And Scotty, being the miracle worker he is, manages to get the Constellation moving again to be the instrument of destruction that brings down this instrument of destruction. An interesting aside here, Commodore Decker is the father of Captain Decker in the motion picture. As TOS often does, the darkness of the episode is cleansed by a bad joke. In the remastered version, the battle sequences are actually quite good and help the overall aesthetic. The crew proving how good they really were against a galactic-level threat in less time than 56 minutes to leave space dock.
Ah, computer! That program is available.
Thanks, Major. Thanks, Major.
Please identify for access to USS Defiant.
Thanks, Major.
Command authorization required. Warning. Attempting to access impulse flow regulators while engines are engaged is not recommended.
Thanks, Major.
Internal sensors are offline.
Thanks, Major.
And now the conclusion.
Thanks, Major.